Now, before we get into the video, I just want to let you guys know that this is all entirely my opinion. You guys could be invested into some of these projects and have a different opinion. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, this is my opinion. I have no bias towards any of these projects. I will give an honest review. Some of these projects might outperform my expectations. That's completely fine. No one can predict the future. It doesn't matter what I say on this list. Realistically, no one has a crystal ball. No one knows how much any of these projects are really going to do in the bull run. No one even knows, how big this bull run is going to be. So the most I can do is just give a fair, honest review. So let's get into it. The first project is Bricken. Now, for those of you guys that don't really understand Bricken or don't understand what it aims to tokenize a bunch of different things. It is backed by the Spanish government. So they have some ties with the Spanish government. And in terms of performance during the last RWA pump, it did fairly well. It did like a 10 to 12x, which is what most good RWA projects done. So I can see this in a bull run, where RWA is going to be a very big sector. I think RWA is going to be, one of the biggest narratives this cycle. So for that reason, I will give this a fair 30x, so maybe a bit more, but let's just do 30x to be conservative. Now, Centrifuge is obviously a very good project. They got very good backers. They got some very good exchange listings as well. However, the market cap is on the higher side. This can do a 10 to 20x, in my opinion. Now, credify is a very unique project within the RWA sphere. It's kind of like lending for RWA. I do think it can do well. It's already performed. It's a project that's been around for a decent amount of time. It has performed already. I personally made over 30x on this. Moving forward, I personally think this can do a 10 to 20x max. I don't think it can do the crazy numbers that some of these newer projects can do. So I would put in the 10 to 20x category, maybe even 30x. It could push for 30x, but 10 to 20x is more realistic. BSD, if you look at across the entire RWA narrative, during the last pump, at least in March, BST was one of the underperforming projects. It did like a 5 to 6x, but then most of the good ones did around 8 to 12x. This is because mainly due to the marketing. Now, although this is a very, very good project, I used to hold this myself, but because they lack marketing, they don't really market themselves, they don't really pay KOLs, they don't do any of that type of stuff. It's just not going to perform. Marketing is a very important part of crypto. So if you're not marketing, you just can't expect people to put the price up of your tokens. That's what we're here for, to make money at the end of the day. If you don't marry none of our coins, if a project's not marketing, then realistically it no longer becomes worth the investment. But it will still do a 10 to 20x. We don't want the 10 to 20x's, we want the 30s, the 50s, potentially the 100x's. GFI, another very good project. It can do very well. They got very good backers. They got Coinbase Ventures. But the only thing is, with this project, one of the catalysts that make a project pump is exchange listings and obviously marketing. But an exchange listing plays a massive role. But the problem with this project is it's already listed on Coinbase. So, I don't know what catalyst is going to move this project to go parabolic in the future. The market cap is fairly high. It's above 100 million right now, potentially even more with the recent pump that we had. I would put this in a 5 to 10x, maybe push it. I'll just put in the 10x category. I think you can potentially do anywhere between a 10 to 15x, a billion to 1.5 billion market cap. I think that's reasonable. CGV, this is a very, very unique project. If you look at RWA across the board, this is one of the only RWA projects that has, ties to AI. So this is like an AI slash RWA project, even though most people see it as an RWA because it doesn't pump with AI, it pumps with RWA. So therefore, it has to be an RWA project, right? But then they got very close ties to AGIX. They got Ben Gertzel on the team. They got a few other very prominent members of the AGIX team behind them, which is why I think it can perform well. Eventually, they will implement AI. They haven't done it already, but these guys do offer treasuries, bonds, so it can do well in the future. As tokenization improves, people want to basically tokenize bonds and treasuries, and I think these guys can do a decent amount. I will put this in the 30 because the market cap's so low, anywhere between a 30 to 50x, but let's just put it in the 30x category. I do think it can do well, especially with its ties with AGIX. As AGIX grows, they will give shout outs, they will promote, Cogito. therefore it will perform as well. We got Chainlink. Obviously, Chainlink's a very, very big high market cap project. It's not going to do anything more than a 5 to 10x. Same thing with HBAR as well. Although these two are very fundamentally very strong projects, they're not going to give you more than a 5 to 10x because that market cap's way too high. Chainlink's got adopted by some of the big banks like JP Morgan, but it barely pumped because the market cap's too high now. People look for newer things rather than projects that's been around for multiple years. Labs Group, not worth the investment. This is a project, that more or less has been around for a decent amount of time. They lied about a bunch of stuff, including the partnership with Arsenal. Arsenal is not really partnered with them. And then they lied about StayNext as well. So I personally just would stay away from this project. Landshare, it can pump. It can definitely pump just due to the market cap. And look, when the RWA narrative takes place, all of these projects will pump. So when I put them in the not worth category, that does not mean they cannot pump. It just means that I personally would not more put my money in these. You can't buy all these projects, so you have to buy the best ones in this category. That's why I would not buy Landshare because this has been around for a decent amount of time. And if you go look at their website, they've had the same free properties for almost 2 years now. They haven't added nothing new. They changed their website, but that's about it. That's why I personally would not touch this project. Leox, very unique RWA project. They do a lot of luxury tokenization, watches, some of the other luxury stuff. It's quite unique, but it does lack the exchange listings. Therefore, I don't think it can give you more than a 10 to 20x. They could even do a 30x if they get some decent exchange listings, which they don't currently have. TrueFi as well, 10 to 20x. They got very close ties with Flocky. So as long as Flocky does well, TokenFi will also do well. I think it can do fairly well. It's a very good project. They do tokenize a bunch of different things as well. 10 to 20x, it could potentially do a 30x as well. But let's just say 10 to 20x is what I'm guessing. And the market cap is fairly high as well. Keep that in mind. Mantra, same thing. Very good project. Has run significantly. I think is one of the only few layer one RWA projects. It's quite old as well. But it's not going to give you anything more than a 5 to 10x, moving forward. I don't really think it's even worth the investment, to be honest. Maple, 5 to 10x project as well. This is quite old project, although it's fundamentally very, very strong project. They just don't seem to pump with the rest of the market. They don't do marketing, although they're a good project, it is only going to give you a 5 to 10x. That's it. Nasdaq's not worth the investment. Very old project. The chart looks awful. If you look at the chart, it just looks like massive candle. There's one, I think an influencer showed this. It pumped like 50x in the space of a day and then just dumped straight down. Since then, it hasn't really done too much. M0, very, very same. The concept is very bullish. It's like gaming, but you can tokenize in-game assets. However, they don't have a mainnet. They don't have a test net. So it's hard to say what the potential of this project is. Concepts can only go so far. When these projects launch initially, people like the concept, they buy in, but then as time goes on and the team hasn't developed nothing, they don't have a test net, they don't really have anything to show for the concept, people get bored, people move on and look for newer things that actually has a mainnet. People are utilizing them. No one's utilizing this project because they don't really have a product out. That's why I personally would stay away from this project unless they make it, unless they release a test net, mainnet, then it could potentially do well. NXRA, this been hacked 2 times now. It was Alliance Block got hacked, and then they got hacked recently as well, like literally a month ago. That's why I just would stay away from this project, but I wouldn't even touch it. Ondo, 5 to 10x, maybe even a 12x. I think this can do very fairly well. It's literally one of the best RWA projects in the crypto space because the market cap is so high. You have to think how much gains can this potentially give you. If RWA becomes a very, very big narrative, Ondo will be the main performer. That's why I think it can do a 10. Maybe potentially anywhere between a 5 to 15x is possible for Ondo. Parcel, look, Parcel is fundamentally a good project. They have some very big backers, Coinbase Ventures, some other big backers. It's on Solana, so it has that high factor as well. But the only problem with this project is the vesting schedule. It is quite harsh. The market cap is like $40 million in market cap. It gets worse. The vesting does get heavy next year. That's why I don't think it can give you too much gains. But because of the hype, on Solana, Coinbase Ventures, I think this will get listed on Coinbase. It's already got some very good exchanges already. But Coinbase listings can make projects go parabolic. Therefore, I will put this in the 10 to 20x category. I think it will do well. But the only problem with this project is, the vesting schedule is very harsh. Pendo, same thing, 5 to 10x. Good project, but it's not going to give you anything more than that. Prop chain is also a decent project. The one thing that I like about the RWA narrative is not saturated. If you look at all the other narratives, AI, gaming, there's thousands of different projects in those categories. If you go into RWA, there's very few good projects specifically, but there's probably like 200 max RWA projects in the entire space. Obviously, there's more releasing every other day, but at the moment, there's not a lot of these projects, a lot of projects in the RWA narrative. That's why I think this sector can do really well. And the fact that BlackRock is now very close to crypto, they want to tokenize a bunch of things. I do think RWA will be one of the top performers in this coming bull run. And prop chain is very good. I would put this, it doesn't really pump too much. That's the problem with this project. Just look at the chart. The chart doesn't lie. It doesn't really pump too much. Not much people talk about this project. There is people that talk about it, but not much. If you look at, for example, something like Relio, it's like one of the top 10 most talked about projects in the entire crypto space. So even if they don't do updates or whatever, the people still talk about it, and therefore it will pump. And prop chain is not one of those projects that a lot of people talk about. So I will put it in the 10 to 20x category. Polytrade, very good project, very, very good backers, MasterCard, Visa, it can do very well. With those big institutions behind them, this could get mass adopted. And I do think it has the potential to do at least a 30x. I would put this in the 30x category. The only thing is the market cap's high, but if RWA gets mass adopted and these guys have some very good backers, I think that one of the recent news was that Visa is helping some of the companies or the banks tokenize, and these guys have a partnership with Visa and Mastercard. So for that reason, I do think it can still do well. Propbase, fundamentally one of the best projects on the list. This is one that I like a lot. I hold in my portfolio. I do think it can do very, very well. I will put this in a 30x category. They got the vesting schedule is very good. They got a bunch of different properties in Singapore, and every time that they list a new property, the whole token utility behind this project is very, very good. So therefore, it will do well. Propy, I think it can do well. It's like 4x. I think 4x away from his all-time highs, or 5x. It can do a 10x. I think a 10x for Propy is possible. It's one of the OGs in the RWA narrative. It will do well. A lot of people know about Propy. That's why I think it can pump. Rio has done significant gains recently. It's one of the leading RWA projects. I've told you guys, this is not the first RWA tier list I've made. I made one before. Since then, Propbase has done a 2x. Rio has done like a 2-3x. I think it's done like a 2-3x. What other projects were under? Some of these other ones have done fairly well as well. WeCoin has done fairly well as well. But I would put Relio in the 30x category. The market cap is just under 100 million. It's only going down. If you can get this around 50, 60 million, it can do potentially even a 50x. I would not be surprised. But at the moment, with the current market cap it has, 30x is still on the cards. Soil, I think it can perform. It's very, very unique in a crypto space. Sometimes unique projects do tend to do well. But the thing is, there's like a big chunk of the supply in the vesting schedule that's not really tracked. So it's impossible to know what the real market cap for this project is. I do think it can still do okay. When the narrative takes off, all of these will pump. I would put this in the 10 to 20x category. Not many people talk about this project, which is surprising. StrikeX, same thing, 10x, 20x max. It's very similar to SMT, but if it does get mass adopted, which I don't really see it happening, it can do well, but conservative 10x, 15x max, that's it. Same thing with SMT. SMT, although is a good project, but it's a very old project. Not many people talk about SMT. Currently, it's very undervalued. If you look at most other RWA projects that have pumped recently, SMT hasn't really pumped too much. So therefore, you can buy it as as something that you kind of haven't missed the boat on. But the thing is, not many people talk about this project. That's the thing. It's quite old. People don't really like this project that much. In terms of there's a few contract issues with this project. However, grand scheme of things, when the narrative takes off, I don't think people really care about these little minor stuff. People just buy and they trade or they sell after the hype is over. I would put this in the 10 to 20x category. UBX as well is it's a quite good project. They started off with Metaverse, RWA. Now they've only branched out to RWA because the metaverse is dead now. No one really cares about the metaverse anymore. So they've only, specialized in RWA now, which is quite good. It has pumped significantly. I bought this quite early, traded it, made a decent amount. Same thing with SMT. I think when I called SMT was in 2022 during the FTX crash. And since then, it's done over 100x. But I sold quite early. Some people held it, but I sold quite early. Made a decent amount, like 40, 50x on this, which is decent. UBX, 10 to 20x. Recoin, because of the low market cap, and generally you shouldn't be market cap hunting, but because there's only very few projects in the crypto space in terms of, low RWA coins, people could potentially buy this as a quick trade. And because of that, it can run significantly. I will put it in the 30x category. The only thing is the team's not that capable in this project. I've spoken to the team personally, so I kind of know. I personally, I wouldn't invest into it unless it's like a small percentage of your portfolio. That's it. TrueFi, good project. I think you can do a 10 to 20x. Not much you can say about this. I think it's a very good project. LCX has run significant. The market cap is quite high. I don't know how this even branches into RWA. It's more like a DEX, like an exchange, not a DEX. Sorry, it's like more like an exchange, but they also do some sort of RWA. But I would put this in the 10 to 20x category only because it's backed by the WEF. If you guys know about the WEF, you know they pretty much run everything. So, because of that backing and is regulated, it can do well. Or I think it's R Trade. It's on Solana. It's quite unique. So you can basically buy buy like fractions in art pieces. That's quite unique in a crypto space. We haven't really seen too much of that. For that reason, I do think this can do fairly well. I would put this in a 30x category if the market cap wasn't that high, but I still think this could do an easy 20 to 30x. I will put it in the 20x category, but it can also push for a 30x as well. It's a good project. Truflation. This recently got hacked. Literally like a few days ago, it got hacked. I think they got wiped for like 5 million. I was very keen on this project because it was RWA AI and Deepin. They had very good backers. They got Coinbase Venture still backing them. So it will potentially get listed on Coinbase. The thing is, in the crypto space, people have short-term memory. So although the price will tank in the short term, over the grand scheme of things, people forget that this isn't been hacked. It can still perform. I will put this in the 20 to 30x category. Let's just put in the 20x just because it got hacked. A lot of projects, sometimes when they get hacked, people lose complete sentiment, like NXRA. But because this is newer and they got very good backers, it could potentially pull through. So if you guys have stayed for this long, make sure to like and subscribe. Let's put this link on. Like and subscribe, share the video. I do want my channel to grow. So if you guys could drop a like, maybe drop a comment in the comment section, it does help me out a lot. I would appreciate it. And thank you guys for so much for staying, this long. If you have stayed for this long, I will see you guys in the next video.